Update 3. My dad smashed my 4-year-old daughter's jaw for talking back. She came crying to me, saying, "Mom, Tina was talking bad and kicking me in the stomach." When I confronted my sister about her daughter's behavior, she shouted, "Well, your daughter doesn't just deserve her jaw getting smashed, but the whole face beaten." Mom laughed. "That's what you get for being completely useless as a parent." Dad said, "Maybe now your daughter will learn to keep that gutter mouth shut forever." Uncle agreed, "Finally, someone's teaching her about real-life consequences." Aunt nodded, "Some kids just don't learn until they get hit hard enough." I stood silent and took my daughter. They had no idea what was coming. She'd potentially been ending people's lives while working as a trusted healthcare provider. Those families had lost their loved ones, and my mother might be responsible. I immediately contacted the authorities, and they launched a full investigation into the suspicious deaths that had occurred under Linda's care. The investigation would take months to complete, but the preliminary evidence was deeply disturbing. While all of this investigation was happening, I was also dealing with Gina's recovery and the emotional aftermath of the abuse. Gina was seeing a child psychologist twice a week, and I was attending every session to make sure she got the help she needed. Dr. Patricia Williams, Gina's therapist, was incredible. She specialized in childhood trauma, and she helped Gina understand that what happened to her was not her fault, and that the adults who hurt her were wrong. But she also helped me understand the full scope of the damage that had been done. "Nicole, Gina is showing signs of complex trauma," Dr. Williams explained during one of our sessions. "The physical abuse was terrible enough, but the psychological impact of having her entire extended family celebrate her injury has created deep trust issues. She's going to need years of therapy to fully recover from this." The therapy sessions revealed disturbing details that Gina hadn't initially told me. During the hours before Richard broke her jaw, several family members had been verbally abusing her. Jessica had called Gina a little for not sharing toys with Tina. Uncle Tom had told her she was stupid and worthless just like her mother. Aunt Carol had threatened to give her something to really cry about if she didn't stop complaining about Tina's behavior. The abuse hadn't been just physical. It had been a coordinated psychological assault on a 4-year-old child by multiple adults who were supposed to protect her. Gina had been terrorized by her own family for hours before Richard finally broke her jaws, the crescendo of their cruelty. Dr. Williams also helped me understand my own psychological state during this time. "Nicole, what you're doing with this investigation isn't just about justice," she explained. "You're processing your own trauma. You grew up in this family system. This culture of violence and abuse was normalized for you, too. Exposing their crimes is also about breaking free from the psychological control they've had over you your entire life." She was right. As I dug deeper into my family's criminal activities, I started remembering incidents from my own childhood that I'd buried or rationalized. Richard had hit me too many times, always followed by lectures about respect and discipline. Linda had been emotionally abusive, constantly telling me I was worthless and would never amount to anything. The whole family had participated in a culture of psychological terrorism that had shaped my entire worldview. Breaking Gina's jaw hadn't been an isolated incident. It had been the continuation of a multi-generational pattern of abuse that I was finally strong enough to stop. During Gina's therapy, Dr. Williams used specialized techniques to help her process the trauma while being careful not to create false memories or further traumatize her. While Gina retained some memory of the frightening experience, the therapy helped her understand that what happened wasn't her fault and gave her tools to cope with the emotional aftermath. Meanwhile, the legal wheels were turning faster than I'd expected. Due to the interstate nature of some of the fraud schemes and the federal programs involved, federal prosecutors were handling most of the cases. The local prosecutor, District Attorney Michelle Rodriguez, was handling Richard's assault case and coordinating with federal authorities. She called me personally to discuss the cases. "Miss Mitchell," she said, "in my 15 years as a prosecutor, I've never seen a more clear-cut case of child abuse supported by such comprehensive evidence of the perpetrator's other criminal activities. We're going to pursue the maximum penalties available." DA Rodriguez explained that while the assault case would be tried in state court, the federal government was handling the fraud cases because they involved federal programs like Social Security and Medicare. This meant more resources for prosecution and potentially harsher sentences. The first arrest happened on a Tuesday morning in November, about 4 months after Gina's assault. I was dropping Gina off at her new preschool. We'd moved to a different apartment across town to get away from any potential contact with my family when Detective Marcus Williams called me. "Nicole, we just arrested your father," he said. "Federal agents picked him up at 6 a.m. this morning. He's being held without bail because he's considered a flight risk." I felt a surge of satisfaction that I hadn't expected. The man who had broken my daughter's jaw was finally behind bars where he belonged. But it was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, the rest of them fell like dominoes. Linda was arrested at the hospital during her shift, led away in handcuffs while her coworkers watched in shock. The local news covered her arrest because of the investigation into suspicious patient deaths, and the hospital had to issue a statement assuring families that they were reviewing all deaths that had occurred under her care. Jessica's arrest was particularly satisfying to watch. I happened to be driving past her apartment complex when the FBI and IRS agents showed up with search warrants. I pulled into a parking spot across the street and watched as they carried out boxes of evidence while Jessica screamed at them from the sidewalk. She spotted me watching and ran toward my car, screaming obscenities and threats. "This is all your fault, Nicole," she shrieked. "You destroyed our family. Gina is going to grow up knowing her mother is a vindictive, who sent her whole family to prison." I rolled down my window just enough to speak clearly. "Gina is going to grow up knowing her mother protected her from child abusers and criminals," I replied calmly. "She's going to be proud of me." Jessica tried to reach through the window to attack me, but the federal agents quickly restrained her and added assault charges to her growing list of crimes. Uncle Tom's arrest was dramatic because he actually tried to fight the officers. He was taken down in his driveway, restrained and charged with resisting arrest in addition to all the gambling and money laundering charges. The local news got footage of the whole thing, and it was deeply satisfying to watch this man who had celebrated Gina's broken jaw getting arrested and dragged away in handcuffs. Aunt Carol's arrest was handled by ICE, and it was swift and professional. She was detained at her workplace and immediately transferred to an immigration detention facility. Her stolen identity had been so comprehensive that it took investigators several days to figure out her real name and country of origin. Throughout all of these arrests, I was getting phone calls from other family members, cousins, second cousins, family friends asking me to drop the charges and work things out privately. These calls ranged from pleading to threatening. And I recorded every single one on the advice of Prosecutor Rodriguez. My cousin Mark, Richard's nephew, called me crying. "Nicole, please. Uncle Richard made a mistake, but he's an old man. He'll die in prison if you don't drop this." "He should have thought about that before he broke a 4-year-old's jaw," I replied. "And Mark, he didn't make a mistake. He committed a violent felony against a child. There's a difference." My second cousin, Lisa, tried a different approach. "Nicole, this is going to tear the whole family apart. Think about the other grandchildren. They're losing their grandparents because of what you're doing. Those grandparents are criminals and child abusers," I told her. "The other grandchildren are safer with them in prison." But the most disturbing call came from my paternal grandfather, Robert, who was 85 years old and had always been the family patriarch. "Nicole, you need to stop this nonsense right now," he demanded in a voice that had terrorized me as a child. "Family business stays in the family. You don't air dirty laundry in public. Richard was just disciplining that girl, and she needed it." "Grandpa, he broke her jaw," I said, feeling myself regress to a scared child for a moment. "So what?" he snapped. "I broke your father's jaw when he was 7 and it didn't kill him. Made him tougher. Your generation is too soft. Sometimes you have to beat respect into children." That phone call was a revelation. The abuse in my family went back generations. Robert had brutally abused Richard, who had grown up to abuse me, and now he tried to abuse Gina. It was a cycle of violence that had been passed down like a family heirloom, and I was the first person in generations to have the strength to break it.